Hello out there in the YouTubeverse, it's Max, and we are back again for some fun. We are going to do the Tinker's Cube Draft, which I haven't done yet, and we're going to give that a whirl. If you're not familiar with Cube, it is a much more powerful set of cards, and what we will do is we will draft through them, and we don't get to keep them at the end, but it's a little cheaper because we don't, but you get to play some really cool cards and some interactions that are pretty unique. So let's take a look at our pack and see what goodness we have in here. Cranko, Branching Evolution. Okay. Revival Revenge. Got a Find Finality. Board Wipe, always a good plan in this kind of a format. We have nothing else that really jumps out at me. If we really wanted to stay colorless, we could go with Clockwork Servant here. Swarm of Bloodflies, a little underpowered for what we're looking at here. We are looking at Find Finality at the moment. I'm not huge on taking the gold card out of the gate here, and we may not play it. Maybe we just want like Merfolk Branchwalker, get a little bit of value. We'll tag that for the second. It could just be Temple to try to make sure we have good mana. Find Finality is very powerful, though. Let's take the Find Finality. It is a very, very powerful magic card. Okay. So we have a Watery Grave here, which pairs nicely with our Find Finality. It'll let us splash blue fairly easily. We got a Merfolk Skydiver, which is a good card. There's an Erebos' Intervention, which is a solid piece of pinpoint removal. There's a Hateful Eidolon, which is more powerful than it seems. Underworld Ragehound, pretty good. Doesn't really pair well with our Find Finality. As a matter of fact, nothing pairs super well with it. Spectral Sailor, good for a long game. I'm just going to snag a Watery Grave here because nothing's jumping out at me yet for an absolute take. Probably then would be Erebos' Intervention based on our first pick. And by no means am I committed to the Find Finality if I don't want to be. Hinterland Harbor, a nice piece of ability to splash again into, like, solidify that splash into blue if we wanted to go 3-color poop. The old Sultai poop. Let's see, +4/+4, when it's put into a graveyard, create 2 wolves. That's okay. Migration Path, pretty good again if we want to go with the multicolor poop. I'm just going to stick with trying to fix my colors. Stick with Hinterland Harbor, lets me solidify that blue splash pretty nicely. Overgrown Tomb in this pack, looking similarly tempting for similar reasons. Piper the Swarm, Serendib, old school classic. Shout out to Dan for that one. I think I'm just going to take the Overgrown Tomb here, a little better than the Titanic Brawl for us. Piper's good over a long game, but I still don't know exactly what I'm doing, and I just want to have good mana, because if I can't cast spells, I'm not going to win the game. Can tell you that much. There's a Nessian Wanderer here, which is pretty good. We don't have any, like, Constellation synergy here. We do have a Tranquil Thicket, which is pretty good. I think my predisposition is to go with that. Looks like red could very well be open. We see a Banefire plus 3 other red cards. There's a Stomping Ground still in this pack. But I think I'll just take the Tranquil Thicket. Kind of be conservative with what I'm doing. Momentous Fall, pretty good. Can draw a lot of cards. It does suck to get countered. Chili Bee in this pack is similarly pretty good. The Ozolith. It's okay. Destiny Spinner, solid. This could win us a long game. It overperformed in the Theros Limited, I think. And obviously we want to have enchantments if possible, but it's not a necessity. And just being able to have creature spells not be able to be countered on our 2/3, which is already above rate stats for a 2-drop anyway, feels pretty good. There's a Dawnshredder Elk in this pack, which would let us do some good work here. There is a Status Statue, which is pretty good piece of technology for the colors we're in. Love Caligo Skin Witch in the late game. Again, I haven't played this yet, so I don't know how much of a late game there really is. I think I'm just going to take the Dawnshredder Elk. Again, looks like kind of a lame pick, but we're spending all these picks early on, taking lands, taking mana fixing, so we can get rewarded. We can play blue very easily in our deck. We can make it a blue. It could be a blue-black deck. It could be a blue-green deck. It could be a black-blue deck, with any of the third color being just a splash. Right now, it looks like it's going to be predominantly a green deck. There is Affectionate Indrik in this pack, which I really like, but I think we're just going to take the value creature, the Llanowar Visionary here. Just too good to pass a card like this. I do like Augur of Bolus. Similarly, just a card that comes down, immediately gives you your value back, and the Visionary continues to do something as the game progresses. Hard to argue. We're back to our first pack with a Swarm of Bloodflies still in the pack. Again, looks a little weak to me. I think we're just going to take Merfolk Branchwalker. We were already looking at this card earlier on. There's an Enthralling Hold, which is good, and probably even better than it was in M21, where it was pretty good. But here it could do even more good work because you're stealing more powerful cards with it. So it's a definite consideration. But I think just taking the Merfolk Branchwalker is just an instant value creature. It does so much for us. I think here we'll take a Warbriar Blessing, a very difficult card to say. Hateful Eidolon still looking pretty good. The enchantment pairs well with our Destiny Spinner because it's just number of enchantments. So that's pretty good for us. Migration Path in the pack could be the pickup here. It could be a Negate or a Castle Vantress. Castle Vantress would be good depending on how deep in the blue we go. I think Migration Path is going to be our pickup to make sure that our mana is kind of nearly perfect. Not much for us here. We'll take a Thassa's Oracle, but I'm going to put it in the board. We could very well be that level of Grindfest. Irosa's Blessing, probably not as good as the Firebrand is if we had to go into red. Cryptic Serpent versus Waterknot, I'd take the Serpent. Again, not really interested in playing any of these cards, but we'll see what we can get. Okay, there's a Heliod that's extremely powerful, but not in a color we're playing. There's an Eldest Reborn, which is also extremely powerful and happens to be in a color we're playing. There's Mouth to Feed, which is pretty good over a longer game. We don't have a lot of fat creatures yet. But for my money, it's looking like Thrashing Brontodon I'd be happy to play with. But I think I'm just going to take Eldest Reborn. This card's very powerful. It feels a lot like a rare at times. And can just kind of run a game over. So we'll take the Eldest Reborn here. Kind of solidify our black-green deck. Again, we don't necessarily have to be that. We can splash these two black cards. Both are expensive and very impactful in the late game, which is kind of what you want in a splash card. So I'm not opposed to being blue. There's a Saheeli Sublime Artificer, which I really like. I do like Hieroglyphic Illumination. It's kind of a very flexible card because of the cycling. Primal Empathy, draw a card. It's okay. It's a very Simic card. With a Gray Merchant, which is kind of like, man, I wish I was a little bit more into black for that. Censor's really solid. A nice early piece of interaction in these kind of decks is generally pretty good. It's cheap, it cycles. It's basically that versus the Illumination. I think the Woe Strider is pretty good if we wanted to sack our creatures. I'm not convinced we want to do that quite yet, so I'm just going to take the Illumination, I think. Debating on the Woe Strider a little bit. Just because we are for sure going to play black, where this blue could be a split. Yeah, let's take the Woe Strider just in case. It is two creatures. It's not phenomenal, but it's pretty good. We have Ephemia, which is pretty good. We already have the Warbriar Blessing. We have the Destiny Spinner for a little bit of that enchantment synergy. We have an Eldest Reborn in our deck. So I'm trying to keep that at the kind of the back of my brain a little bit. We're doing like an enchantment theme. There's an Enchantress's Presence, which could wheel. So I'm going to grab the Ephemia. If this wheels, then maybe we try to play it. And we are like Sultai Enchantments Matter kind of deck, which is an interesting place to be. Didn't think I'd be in a place like that. There's a Path of Discovery here that gives us more explore value. There's a Departed Deckhand, which is probably a little too aggro for what we're trying to do. Lockmere Serpent is quite good, though. It can just win a game on its own. It's very powerful, but it's, a gold card. I could take the Breeding Pool here and, again, kind of solidify my Sultai-ness. But we're not really even in blue yet. If we take the Serpent, we are. So it's an interesting pick. I think the Breeding Pool is better to see if the Serpent comes around. And we'll see if that works for us. Because right now we're not necessarily blue, but we could very easily be blue. And I think I'm just going to take a Druid of the Cowl here. There's nothing too crazy going on. Like, Lead the Stampede's okay, but in the deck we're concocting, it's not great. Right now we're at 6 creatures versus 4 non-creatures. We have spent 5 picks on land. So I'm going to take Druid of the Cowl here. Reclamation Stage is a nice pickup, very flexible creature. We're already seeing artifacts and enchantments flowing pretty heavily. So I think this is going to be our pickup here, just a nice Rec Sage pickup. Nicole Bolas, quite good. Hard for us because of the level of splash we would need to do. Love Chamber Sentry. I think Ashiok could be pretty good for us. This card can almost be a win condition on its own. It can just wreck pretty hard. There's a Field of the Dead in this pack, which is a little ambitious, I think. Grumgully, one of my favorites. Love Grumgully. But I think we'll just take Ashiok here. It's a good, robust threat that lets us attack the opponent from another angle and deal with problematic cards. Gutter Bones in this pack, probably the pickup over a bunch of red duels we're really not interested in. We're not really going to release any dogs. So I don't think we want any of that. We'll take a Gutter Bones here. Yeah, it's fine. It's not great. Thrashing Brontodon, like we talked about earlier, be happy to have that. Loathsome Chimera's fine too. It attacks really nicely. Flame Spill's quite a good removal spell, but I think just Thrashing Brontodon a little better than the expensive Lich's Caress. For a pinpoint piece of removal, that's a little bit high on the price tag for me. Saheeli came around. I'm going to take Saheeli. I'm going to put it in the board because I don't know if we're going to be blue enough for Saheeli. There is an Ominous Seas here. Bloom Hulk's not bad. We'll take Bloom Hulk. I don't know if it'll make the deck. Sifter Worm's kind of exactly what we're looking for over the Path of Discovery here. We need a win con. Sifter Worm can definitely be that. We'll take a Quench here in case we need the cheap interaction. We are kind of blue enough. I don't know how. I'm not a big fan of Quench. If you've watched our content before, thanks for doing that. And you'll know that I am not a huge fan of the card Quench. It's okay, but sometimes you're just kind of using it because you have to on a card that's pretty subpar. It's not quite Mana Leak. That 1 mana, I mean, it's 1 mana, right? If you play enough Magic, you know the difference 1 mana can make. So right now we're at 12 creatures, 5 non-creatures. A little bit of enchantment synergy going on. I like the Bloom Hulk. ETB. You get to proliferate. Electrodominance, one of my favorite cards for Commander. Okay, into this new one. New pack here. This is a pretty weak pack for us. There is the first Ironin Games that lets us do some stuff. It's okay. It's a decent role player. The Horn Beetle is okay. They're all just okay. Kiora's pretty good, but not phenomenal. She's a decent piece of mana excel for us, and she can kind of draw us some cards. Right now we're not like huge on fat. We have like 1 4/4 and 1 7/7, so it's not like we're gonna like go bonkers. The question is she a little better than the first Ironin Games? I'm gonna go with yes. The upside seems high, especially when we just get an Uro. That seems pretty good. I would happily take that Ancestral Mask, probably. A Drown in the Lock I wouldn't say no to. Unfortunately not the Blood Artist. Oh, cool Solemn Art. I do like that. Cool looking Solemn there. We're going to take Uro, because that card's bonkers. The Great Henge in this pack, very tempting pickup. Evolution Sage, a very good proliferate card. Nothing too out of control. Command the Dreadhorde can take over and win us a long game. Lets us go through the graveyards. We're not super duper removal heavy, which is my concern with that card. We can trade a lot and then just get a big payoff. We could also Great Henge, but we're not super creature heavy either. So I don't think that's really going to reward us too much. Crawl Harpooner, solid role player. Evolution Stage, pretty good. I'm just going to command the Dreadhorde, I think. It's another powerful win condition. We do need to prioritize removal if we see it. Would be very nice. Patient Rebuilding is a good card if we're a little slower, and we are. Double Blue worries me a touch with our mana. Deathbloom Thallid, pretty good, kind of a trade-off-y kind of card. Grim Dancer's not bad either. I think we're not quite aggro enough for Grim Dancer, and I like the Thallid a little better with our mana. So I'm going to take that over Talrand's Invocation or Patient Rebuilding. Just a nice solid role player for our deck. Agonizing Remorse is a nice piece of interaction. Witch's Vengeance is okay, but I haven't seen a lot of like overlap for tribal in this particular set. Shadow Spear is pretty good. That could win us a long game. Spell Pierce is a nice piece of cheap interaction when we're tapped low. I do like this Armored Killer, Gem Razor. It's pretty good. I think that's probably going to be our pickup. It's just a good fat creature. And again, with Kiora, there's value there. There's the Trollbred Guardian, which is quite good for us. Mythos of Eluna is pretty good. it's okay. Like, it's a good clone effect. There's a Prophetic Prism if we were a little bit more color intensive we might consider, but I think I'm just going to take the Guardian here. And at this point, 16 and 7, so we're at 23, which is kind of our number, because we're looking like we're going to be 17 land. We have a Renata. It's not bad. Like, it can definitely take over a game. Back for More, I think might be the pickup. It's from our graveyard. Let's grab that, because it seems like it has a lot of late game implication. Supreme Will's pretty good. That's a good flexible piece of interaction. There's your counter unless they pay 3. It does cost 3. I don't know how much we're looking to hold up mana in this particular deck is my only concern. Where Crocodile of the Crossing's just kind of a good beater, but I don't know, again, if that fits the tempo. So I think we're going to take Supreme Will here as a potential splash card. This pack's back to our wheel. Really nothing in here for us. We'll take the Horn Beetle just in case we need another 2, depending on how fugly our curve looks. There's a Hornbash Mentor here. It's not bad. Put trample counter on target non-human. Put 1 counter control trample. Versus Hunt the Weak, which is like decent removal, or Foreboding Fruit, which is card draw. Let's take the Fruit, because we're going to be playing a longer game, so we're going to want the card draw. Seeker Squire's not bad. It explores. It's cheap. I was tempted to take the green card with the Krull Harpooner, because it does deal with a flyer, which is tempting, and it's cheap. Just take an opt here, I think. And I keep saying it's cheap, meaning a deck like this, you're going to curve and you're going to cast generally 1 spell a turn. So we want to make sure that we're not just getting blown out. So if we can get to 2 spells by casting 2 2-drops, that's pretty good for us. Neither of those cards mattered. There was no strategy to picking those. Just took 1. Alright. And we have a deck. We have 47 cards to choose from. We have good mana here, which is nice. We're casting our spells, which is where I want to be. I'm thinking about Migration Path, and I'm thinking I don't necessarily need it. Our blue splash is very light. Opt is going to come out. Our blue splash is super duper. Like, 1 island may even be a little much for what we're doing, because we don't really need to grab a basic other than with the Dawn Shredder Elk. It's probably the only thing that's like making me agree with the island being a part of the deck. Gutter Bones is a little questionable in this deck. Where are we at with creatures? 18 creatures. Yeah, Gutter Bones can go. We're not really going to do much value with Gutter Bones. We don't have like a lot of sack synergies where we're trying to gain advantage getting back Gutter Bones. Nessian Hornbeetle's okay. Big creatures, we have 1, 2, 3, 4. And then potentially, I think, did we take Renata or did we pass on Renata? We passed on Renata. We don't have a ton of big creatures. Yeah, our only mono blue card is Supreme Will, which I don't mind, because late game it either is countering a spell or it's going to impulse for us, which is pretty nice. So I'm not upset with that pickup at all. It's a good late game role player. Agonizing Remorse might not be the card for this deck. Let's see here. I'm just looking over my 2s, seeing what Nessian Hornbeetle looks to be the weakest 2. So we'll drop that. Let's see where I'm at with 16 to 9. Okay, not bad. I don't want to drop too many more creatures if I can help it. Let me just double check what we have for non-creatures. Kiora may not make it. She just isn't really doing it for me. So I think she's probably going to go. She's just, again, we don't have that many creatures she interacts with, so she may draw us probably like 1 card on average per game, and then untap land. So she's more like a mana accelerant than she is anything else. She also, I mean, the benefit is an opponent sees you play Kiora, they're thinking you're immediately on Fatty Fat Fat, so they're going to start trying to tag down Kiora pretty hard. So there is that advantage as well. Euphemia's got a decent enough amount of targets, and it being a 2/1 evasive threat thing come down on turn 2, I think makes it good enough. Thrashing Brontodon and Reclamation Sage kind of occupy a similar place, as does the Armored Killer here, good old Gem Razor. That they all kind of occupy a similar piece of space. I want to move. This can stay on the 6 because I do consider it a 6-drop. Let me just move some land over real quick. And I'll pull this, make this big so we can see what I'm up to here. Oh god, Didn't stack at all, did it? Sorry, everybody. Okay. We need to take out one card. Our curve looks okay. Our 6s look a little glutted. Find could be a 2-drop, though. Like, if we move Find to the 2-drop spot, doesn't look bad. Like, that's not a bad curve with a couple pieces of mana acceleration in here. That's not bad. Back for More looks a little suspect to me. But the ability to move something back from the yard seems like we move a Sifter Worm back from the yard, it fights something. It's a removal spell plus a recursion spell in one. Seems pretty powerful to me. Just trying to look to see if there's anything that looks questionable. We do have a lot of value in this deck. A lot of Explore. A lot of like value plays like that. Board Wipe in here. I do like the style we've built. Bloom Hulk ETBing for counters is something. We have a couple Explore creatures that can benefit from that. We have Ashiok that can benefit from that. We have an escaped Woe Strider that can benefit from that. We have the Guardian that can benefit from that. Eldest Reborn could accelerate out of nowhere, which is kind of like a partial benefit. So, I mean, there's like 5 or 6 cards that interact favorably there, which I think is kind of enough. It's a good question of what exactly do we want to get rid of. It's a tough one. It's always that last card that tricks you and you want to go for the 41 card special, which is very, very, very rarely the right choice. Man, this is a toughie, though. Back for More seems like the least powerful card to me. We don't have any real ways to cheat our creatures into the yard in that respect. It is definitely a value play. We're using Euro as well as Woe Strider for the graveyard, so I think Back for More can come out. If we feel like we need it, if we're in a spot where I'm like, man, if I had Back for More, it would be absurd right now. Maybe it's better than Command the Dread Horde. Maybe our life's just going to be too low to Command the Dread Horde. That's entirely possible as well. I don't know. I'm predisposed to try it like this because Command the Dread Horde can steal their best card. My fear with this deck is that it just lacks enough good removal. We didn't see any. We saw Erebos' Intervention, which is good, and we saw Lich's Caress going a little late, but that's expensive. 5 in this format seems a little crazy. It just seems a little too pricey, in my opinion, for a piece of pinpoint removal. In normal limited, I'd grab a Lich's Caresses all day long, but we're not playing Core Set Limited. We're playing a cube, so opponents are going to be doing more powerful things than that. So I really think that 5 for a pinpoint removal spell is a little questionable, especially with very like Spell Pierce. Can't pay for the Spell Pierce till turn 7. That seems terrifying. This hand looks good. We got 2 of our tap lands. Plenty of stuff to do on every turn. We just got to sequence our spells in a meaningful way. So I think we'll start with Watery Grave and then probably proceed into Forest. Likely playing a Secret Squire on 1. We'll see what opponent does here. Yeah, definitely against Siren Storm Tamer. I'm not super duper interested in throwing out my Ephemia and trying to race. Yeah, this card's very powerful. We'll keep it on top of our library. And that is another recursion spell from the yard as well, along with Command the Dread Horde. So another reason why Back for More not the best thing in the world. Put on blue-white, what appears to be my guess would be Flyers. Let's go ahead and attack, see if we get our guy attacked. We did not. So we can play the Hinterland Harbor untapped. We can play the Overgrown Tomb tapped, which is my predilection here, is to play the Overgrown Tomb tapped and then just cast Ephemia. Another card that interacts with the graveyard, and that just resolves. So our opponent probably not holding any counter magic. And they have old school good stuff, Snare and Freet. That's going to put a stop to some things. I mean, they can definitely attack. There's no doubt about that. Alright, so. Thinking about how I want to proceed here. I think we just want to Fruit We can't pay the adamant on fruit, so it is just a draw 2, lose 2. We can play Merfolk Branchwalker, add to the board. At that point, we're like in this weird race we can't win. And I don't want to commit a ton of creatures to the board when we're looking to find finality. I just kind of want to find my land to make sure I can cast cards like Find Finality. So we'll see what we can do. This is going to be a tough one for us. Blue-White Fires is a classic archetype for Limited, and it does exactly what our opponent's doing. It presents a diverse array of threats. So it looks like they're going to make a Thopter would be my guess, which pairs up poorly with our Ephemia. I think from here we probably want to block the Siren Stormtamer and just get it off the board. And they're going to bounce our Seed, which is a little questionable just to not have us attack Dovin. I mean, Dovin's a good card. It's a mythic rare. We did draw a land, which is very good news for us, by the way. Let's think for a minute. We could Rex Sage blow up their Thopter token and then recast Seeker Squire, which isn't a bad line here. We could try to save the Rex Sage for something a little bit more valuable. I don't like throwing a ton of creatures down onto the board. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to Dawn Treader Elk. And then I'm going to cast Seeker Squire again. And see if I can explore. Not a land. Okay, we got a land. Opponent's card flashes back for 5. They're going to play a Curiosity on their Serendib Efreet. Make a Thopter. So that gives us a target potentially to blow up with Rex Sage. See what opponent does here as a follow-up. We'll just get our island here. 2 forests, 0 swamps with 2 black sources. Okay. We will play out swamp. I'm just debating on how I would like to proceed here. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to cast Rex Sage and I'm going to blow up their Thopter and take care of Dovin on this turn. We'll see if the Rex Sage gets through. Gives him another card with Curiosity. But we can get Dovin off the board, which is kind of... We can deal with the Serendib. Another card is not a great thing. My thought process here, though, is if we take Dovin out, they don't have a threat really after Find Finality resolves. I'm going to play Ashiok. And I'm going to deal with their graveyard. Okay, we got rid of some goodies. And this also gives them the option, if they want to kill Ashiok, they can. But Curiosity won't trigger, because Curiosity is an old card and has to deal damage to me. Yep, and they just go right for my face. So that likely tells me that they're holding a counterspell. That's how I read the situation. Because if they're just going to attack me, they want me dead. They're not going to fool around with Ashiok. Likely means they can counter my Find Finality, which they're firmly aware of because it's revealed in my hand. Yeah, definitely. That's the lethal threat there. So this would lead me to believe they most assuredly have a counterspell. There's nothing I can do to play around a counterspell. Another blocking, which is... Maybe they don't have an answer to find finality. I don't have much choice but to do it. Okay, they did not have an answer. We have a Merfolk Branchwalker. Explore. I think this should just stay on top most likely. Though we could escape it. Let's put it in the graveyard. It's actually probably better in the graveyard because of escape. Spectral Sailor's not great, but one more mana would have been really big, so I would have played it and drew a card. Skylord quite good. So they were waiting for the finality to happen. So they're gonna hit us for 1 here. Not draw any cards. No, they're gonna go for Ashiok. Interesting. Okay, command the Dread Horde. Can't really get back much with command the Dread. That was my fear. So now we can kind of compare this directly to the Back for More, where we could get into play something, which could likely be like a Seeker Squire, and then we could fight maybe. But that's kind of rough. We could get back the Serendib Efreet. That costs us 3 life, and then the Serendib could kill us. So that's not great either. So we're just going to mill them. It cuts off the ability to command said Dread Horde. But, you know, desperate times and such. We'll go ahead and attack them. I doubt they block with anything here. If they attack with the Eternal Skylord, we'll block with a goat. I really doubt that happens. But opponent just looks like they're kind of on classic blue-white flyers to me. A little bit of Control, I see an Essence Scatter in here. Some controlling and tempo elements. Makes a lot of sense. Very classic style. Interesting they're still electing to go after Ashiok. And why I say that's interesting is if we deal with one of their threats, they're off their clock now. Okay, Archon of Redemption. Okay, that card's quite good. Definitely want to scry here. See if we can find something. I don't know if we have a single answer in the deck for this, but it's definitely not Swamp. Now the debate is Deathbloom Thallid getting sacrificed, and I think it is going to. Opponent is definitely holding something as the last card in their hand. I don't see an effect on board that they can pay for that would be giving them priority. So their last card is a real card. So you can see this is sitting on the stack waiting for them to respond. We're going to have to sack the Saproling as well. So far we've pushed 2 land to the bottom. Uro's interesting. Yeah, I think that's going to be the best card. Can we cast recast? Blue, blue. No, blue, blue. No, we're good. Green, green, blue, blue. Yeah, we're good. I'm not saying this wins us the game by any stretch. But it's something. It's definitely better than land, land. We have a Destiny Spinner. I don't think we can afford to attack with both, because if they just take it, I mean, taking 8 here is not great for them. It's half their life total. But if they counter Euro on the way back, do we not have enough cards in graveyard for Euro? We do not have enough cards in graveyard for Euro. Yeah, so we are... I thought we did, but we can't escape that hard. So I should have attacked with Merfolk Branchwalker to see if they blocked. And we were a mana short of being able to cast Command the Dreadhorde for anything relevant. The only thing really relevant would be Ephemia, just because it's an aerial blocker. Yep, their last card was a real card. That's right, once we couldn't recast Euro, it was basically game. If we recast Euro and went to 9, they would have got us for 3, 6, 7, 8. They still would have got us for Xaxes, because we would have had 2 creatures, so that was exactly their best draw. So opponent drew pretty well that game. We drew kind of poorly. I'm definitely not convinced that Command the Dreadhorde's good. We died with a spell in our hand, and this is not what we want, so we can't afford a card like that in our deck. We have to want to cast every card in our deck. I think that Back for More is probably going to be a better choice. Again, I'm not like convinced that it's phenomenal by any stretch, but I think it's better than what we have going on elsewise. It's a good final kind of attack, like a good final powerful, potent threat to try to win with. Command the Dreadhorde just looked too shabby. As suspected, there's a possibility we could be too low to use Command the Dreadhorde, and that's definitely the case. So with Blue-White Skies being a prevalent deck, that's definitely a bit concerning. Like cards like Warbriar Blessing is going to be very, very good. Again, this hand's super keepable, so we're going to do that. We're going to play the Overgrown Tomb tapped out of our hand. Lands are fine. Spells are okay. Like, I'm not happy to have a land, but I'll deal with it. Any spells looking pretty good for us. We can cast just about anything in the deck in terms of color commitment. See if this gets shocked with the ability on the stack. It does not. Let's put that in the graveyard. It's a little early for that. Not really itching for that. We haven't seen good cards to go with it yet, so there's no reason to keep that in the hopes that maybe we draw a big threat. Now, if our next draw is Sifter Worm, then so be it. But we have Sifter Worm. We have, I think, 2 other biggish creatures that works well with, and the odds of kind of just wanting to hang on to that for no reason seem a little low to me. Put a Mountain. They have to play a 2-drop here, right? Fire Prophecy on our Seeker Squire. That is aggressive. Why do they want to keep the board so clear? They're afraid of 2 damage? I mean, it's kind of fine with me. I mean, maybe they're just mono removal. Land not a stellar draw there, but I'm not terribly upset about it. Again, we have Find now. We can get back Seeker Squire if we need to as the game progresses. I don't think that's probably going to be a road we'll go down, but you never know. So Warbriar Blessing here we could use if they play a creature, a small creature. 3rd Mountain. Grim Initiate. Into Careless Celebrate. And this is a fight. So if we use Warbriar Blessing, man, I can't say that card. It would kill our creature. Yeah, the library's fine there, and a good 4-drop, a good sized 4-drop is kind of nice. Rex Sage could come down here. I'm looking at Find Finality as a possible option down the line. I don't think we really want to do anything. We can just kind of pass here. I still don't want to Warbriar anything away. These 2 cards are kind of anemic. This looks like they're on black-red, like a sacrifice theme to me, and they're just not seeing black yet. I could be wrong, and they could just be using these as low end on their curve for an aggro red deck. Phoenix of Ash. They have 1 other card in their graveyard. No blocks here. So we're going to play the Bloom Hulk. Warbriar Blessing could go on the Visionary. We could take out the Celebrant. The main concern, though, is that Phoenix of Ash. So I think we just want to pop this onto our Branchwalker, because 3 is kind of the toughness where they can get us with a burn spell. No attacks here because I don't want him to punish us with the Grim Initiate plus a shock. I think that's, like, I don't know what other instants are in here for 2 damage at 1, but I don't want to get punished by a shock-esque effect. So they can't get back their Phoenix of Ash yet. And they're probably just going to keep tagging us with the Celebrant, which is kind of fine. 2 damage is fine in the face of what's going to be 8 coming at them. Does not frighten me too much. Okay. So we could find Finality here, which looks pretty tempting to me in the face of a 4-2, a 2-1, and a 1-1. Problem is if we put counters on something, so we could put counters on the Bloom Hulk, for example, it would die. They could tag, or then they could tag it with the Careless Celebrant. So that's quite annoying. The Minotaur is not a creature. So I think that's our option to keep the Merfolk Branchwalker around. And now they get to use the Celebrant here, which is fine. It's not great. They get to come back at us with the Phoenix, but then we have the ability to kind of try to attack past them here if need be. Have this enter tapped. No attacks. We need a little bit of help for sure, but we'll see how it goes. So if they're going to escape the Phoenix, now's the time. Fruit's not bad here. We can pay Adamant on it. Bad. That's bad. That part of it's bad. We'll end the turn here. We can food up to 9, go down. They can pump their Phoenix potentially twice. Now twice. So they can come in for 6. Or they pump it up to... Gotta use this. So we got a 1 here, it looks like. Wow, really? Maybe they just have 3 damage? Okay. Yep, there's the 3 damage. So far... Really? Really? That is annoying. So, definitely noted that the deck is weak to flyers. Also, the format is very rife with them. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to actually click on the deck. So let's see what we can do to deal with that. I know we have Collision. Colossus does nothing for us, but 6 damage to a flyer might be relevant in the main. That seems kind of crazy to me. Agonizing Remorse might be a more robust choice. It'll deal with a flyer early. It's not as good in the late game as Collision is, but I just feel like Collision's a little bit of a pigeonhole. Just looking if there's anything else. Quench may be a piece of interaction we want. I don't know what we drop for it. We haven't seen any of our high impact cards. We haven't seen a Sifter Worm, an Eldest Reborn, or a Troll Red Guardian yet. We have seen Finality a couple times, and it's okay. So I think it, as a piece of board wipe, probably not good enough in this format. The threats seem to be cheaper and more diverse than what Find can handle. Find Finality can handle. They're just able to reload around it a little too easily, it seems like to me. So you definitely want to, going into the Tinker style, you definitely want to have an ability to deal with flying for sure. Because skies/flying threats, if you're weak to them, seems like you're just going to get completely pooped on. As we are so far. But again, can't get too upset. That's an archetype and a strategy that's as old as limited Magic. Can't block a thing with flying if you do not have flying yourself. We go first. It's the first time we haven't had all our colors. But enough of these colors that, yeah, definitely will keep this. I've been on the play every time, too. Can't complain about that. Castle Vantress tapped. Just play a Seeker Squire here, get a little bit of value. If we have a land on top, it gets it out of the way for us. Yeah, library's fine with that. We can play that, get our blue source, make sure we're good to cast spells. So we're blue against blue-black, so likely again flying. Yep, a Vantress Gargoyle. Can't attack, but it can block. So definitely worth noting. Okay, so we need to deal with that. Again, I think if you're going to play these colors or you're going to play into black, you definitely want a lot of removal if you can get it. It's the thing that, again, during the deck building portion we noted was not something the deck did overly well, and it's something we're getting punished for pretty hard here. Oh, there's our island. That's okay. Let's just get double green this way. We'll just cast our Deathbloom Thallid. See if they have a counter spell. Super okay with this getting counter. It's not a big deal. Next to combat. No attacks here. No need to attack. Like, we could try to attack with the Dawn Treader Elk and see if they block and sack it. Like, that just seems kind of narrow to me. We're going to cycle a Hieroglyphic Illumination. Means to me the opponent's looking for land here. Because they miss out. Or no, they mill a card just... Okay, I think this is blue tap to mill a card. Okay. Black source is not something we wanted, so no problem there. They lose a Spectral Sailor. My turn. So let's use our Dawn Treader Elk. Just get us a second green source. We can now cast every card in the deck without question. Okay. Let's go ahead and cast a Destiny Spinner. Am I looking to counter it? No attacks here. I'm not going to bluff an attack into a 5/4. Maybe a removal spell? They seem to be very worried about the Destiny Spinner. Okay, they're going to use the Gargoyle. We lose another land, they lose a land. Sure. I'm not going to counter their Supreme Will with my Supreme Will. I'll let them impulse. Likely looking for a land here. Would be my guess. And we can kind of see how important a removal spell would be here. Because if I just got this one Vantress Gargoyle out of the way, I'd be pressuring the opponent for a lot of damage every turn. They would have to do they'd have to be much, much faster. Human, fungus, human. I think we counter unless they pay. Well, do I care? So they're going to name human because we have a human. It's human something. Human scout and a fungus. But I really don't see these creatures doing much. Yeah, I think I just let them have it. They kill two creatures that weren't attacking elsewise anyway. So it doesn't bug me too much. I think I'd rather search for a card. Bloomhoke, not great. It does pressure the creature, so it's good enough. This is an artifact, is it not? Okay, this is even better. We'll do it over. We want the 4/4 stats. And we get to destroy an artifact. I'm going to play the Bloomhoke out. Lose a little bit of ETB value, but having a 2-turn clock is significant here for an opponent who's struggling to make land drops. We have no cards in hand. I mean, obviously they're way up on spells. Our hope is to end them before they can get to overcoming their mana trouble. It looks like they slowly are. I'm trying to think if there's anything board wipey. I don't think so yet. I think they need at least another red before we can get into worrying about our creatures getting killed. One of them, for sure, could die. But just a mass board wipe, I don't think they're set up for that here. I'd be surprised if they did not cast a spell. Callous Dismissal? Fine with me. Did not expect that. Something else? Maybe a removal spell here? Okay, nothing. Okay. Let's get at him. Yep. Hulk. Athenia. We will get rid of Destiny Spinner and make a zombie. And that kind of floods the board here a little bit against them. There's a lot here to like about our position. We'll see if they draw an answer. Or have drawn an answer and draw the appropriate land to do it. Still don't think those colors do it. Or that mana does it. Looks like they're digging in the graveyard. Perhaps for Command the Dreadhorde. But they really don't have much. Spectral Sailor and a Vantress Gargoyle. We have a Seeker Squire and a Dawn Treader Elk. Like, there's really not much going on there, and they're paying a ton of life to get the Dreadhorde commanded. Yeah, I don't know. They're digging around in our yard still. That's why I'm thinking because they're going through both graveyards pretty aggressively. Leads me to believe it's Command the Dreadhorde. I just don't see that being the difference maker here. Yep, as predicted. Okay, does this do it? Yes, it does. So that takes them to 3. They're a removal spell away from dealing with our creature. They have a blocker we know for sure with Temoret. He can gain life as well, but he has to block immediately because their devotion to black is very low. And right now we have a 6/6. So they either need a removal spell or to cast Temoret. They get to activate one time. One time so far. So they gain 2 life. And they have a 2/2 at the moment that we know about. Again, they have 4 other cards in their hand. Looks like they're digging around in their graveyard again. They have a find of their own, so they get to cast 1 creature here. They can cast. They can't cast Temoret. They can cast either the Sailor or the Gargoyle. Whatever they're casting is going to die unless they have a removal spell. Seems unlikely they have a removal spell. Interesting. Didn't read the card. I was wondering if that was going to happen. Okay. We managed to squeak one out there. This deck definitely feels like it needs a little bit more card draw and a little bit more removal. Like, I would definitely sub out. Again, we haven't seen our Eldest Reborn yet. We haven't seen our Sifter Worm yet. We haven't seen any of our good threats, and this deck has the ability to go Druid of the Cowl into, like, Llanowar Visionary. Llanowar Visionary, I think it's called, right? Yeah, Llanowar Visionary into, like, a Sifter Worm. So, we just haven't seen draws like that yet with the deck. These good proactive draws. There's an Eldest Reborn. Rex Sage is kind of our first play, which looks a little scary. We're going first. We'll keep it. Rex Sage is our first play. Seems a little scary to me. Okay, Destiny Spinner is our first play. Seems way better to me. I like that way better. I like this Plains, though it has nothing to do with being a plane. It's just as some buildings. Some Orzhov basilicas and churches and such. Steeples. Orzhov-y stuff. Okay. Second white. Nothing. Breeding Pool. I think we'll attack. Looks like opponent's holding an instant. Perhaps a Raise the Alarm. Again, I haven't played this cube, so I'm not 100% sure what we're looking at here. If it's like an Impeccable Timing effect or a Gideon's Reproach. Seems a little underpowered for a cube like this to have a card like that. I'm just going to draw 2 here. We're going to beat this opponent with cards, so I will take them. Hard cast an Ardenvale Tactician. Just debating on what I want to do with this Breeding Pool. I might as well just jump check because I can't block the Ardenvale Tactician. If they block, there's no harm, no foul to me. I think I'm just going to play a Woe Strider here. Next turn, we'll look to probably Eldest Reborn. Perhaps we Armored Killer. We'll see. Green, white. Danitha Capuchin. Interesting. Do we want to scry here? I don't think so. First Strike, Vigilance, Lifelink. Yeah, I think we can. I don't necessarily want to draw a land right here. Uro's not bad. Let's go ahead and Eldest Reborn. We guarantee get a card here. First strike, vigilance, lifelink. I don't think we can afford to attack here against her. I think we need to hold back. Opponent's going to discard a card here. It's not going to be a stellar card. But it looks like they're... No, they're on their 5th turn, right? Yeah. So they're going to make a land drop here. Most likely. Whenever you gain life, put a 1/1 counter on this. As long as you have 25 or more life, it has double strike. Okay. So they give up their Danitha if they want to make this attack. And they do not. They do not make a land drop yet. So they do not make a land drop whatsoever. Okay, so they elected to not make a land drop in order to discard their card. Okay. I think we just want to play Uro here. I'm not doing anything. I'm not in super big trouble yet. Branchwalker, good draw there. A lot of looks. Sifter Worm. Yeah, I'll play that card. So I could have put it in the bin, I guess, and Eldest Reborned it back out. Probably would have been a little bit better, as opposed to holding on to a card like that, where I can't cast it right now. So definitely a bit of a punt there. Didn't consider that line. Blue is in the mix for the opponent here. Song of Freyalise. Okay, that's going to get Rexaged. Whoa. Tristani Discordant is quite good. Resolves. My turn, I think, is fine. Ardenvale works. We can't finality here. Yeah, so we definitely made a couple punts in a row here. Is this a human? It is a human knight. Interesting. No attacks. Well, let's go ahead and Rex Sage. We'll keep that going because we don't want to not do that. Do we want a Druid? I don't think we want a Druid here per se. This is fine. It shuts off them attacking here with their Ardenvale Tactician because we can just throw it in the way of something like the Twin Blade Paladin or the Capuchin. And then we do have finality to sweep up if we draw a land. And I don't mind losing the creatures because that's just cards that can escape Euro. That is going to be a problem. So they're going to get 5 triggers here. Okay. put another block there. So we need a land here. Can't really block it. Woodland Champion does nothing. Was not a land. Does not have tramp, correct? Just double strike. One, two, three, four. Okay. Sifter Worm's still pretty live for us. We can now mutate if we need to kill the Path of Bravery. We're gonna just chump block with the goat token on the Twin Blade Paladin. Comes at a cost. So if we pay this, we get the Sifter Worm, we have to gain life. Have to gain a lot of life. Trollbeard Guardian good, Thrashing Brontodon good. So it looks like we'll be blocking Twin Blade with Tactician, blocking 5/5 with Sifter Worm, taking 2 if they elect to go down that road. They've underdrawn their land. They did cycle 1, and it looks like they discarded 1 to our Eldest Reborn a while back. And again, kind of getting hampered by the lack of removal here. I think that's definitely our big hang-up. Really empty throne, seriously. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just thinking about how exactly I want to line this out. I think I have to attack. Then I think I have to go Trollbred Guardian plus Druid of the Cowl. And then I think we have to probably adapt the, or not adapt, but mutate the Trollbred Guardian. Now, then we have to make a decision as to what we blow up, the Sigil or the Path. But we're still on chump blocking mode on that Twin Blade Paladin. And again, this is assuming opponent just draws kind of duds from here. They've only drawn 8 land. I assume of 16 or 17. Yeah, that's a problem. That's probably where we lose the game here. Last card in hand happened to be an enchantment. Or second to last card happened to be an enchantment. This is also an enchantment. We definitely lose. We know we're going to draw Thrashing Brontodese. So we can do like mutate plus Brontodese. Is that no because of colors? No because of colors right now. I don't think he even bothers swinging the Master Slicer for opponent. Master Splicer. Yeah, you can see just a piece of pinpoint removal here would be pretty good. Even though Let's Just Caress would be good enough. So we can certainly mutate, blow up the Sigil. We take lethal in the air is the problem. So I think we have to dig. Warbriar Blessing works. Just think if there's any benefit to putting this on the Trollbred Guardian. Not really. I think we do have to attack here. Take some heat off of us a little bit. The Twin Blade's a problem if they kill our Trollbred. That's life. They have a pacifism or a Face Fetters or what have you. Face Fetters would be awful because then they get... Pacifism would also be bad because of the Sigil, but... Can't really play around what we can't play around. Crocodile of the Crossing kills the Master Splicer. And they attack us for lethal. 5/4 haste threat is a threat as well. We'll just block the 5/4. Okay. Can't quite wrap it up. A little bit of mana color problems here, and that's what happens when you're on 3 color. Never got a chance to get ahead. So let's take one last look at the deck here in a moment, as soon as Arena decides we can. We'll close this out. So I think it was okay. The deck ended up being okay. Not super great. Probably like a, I guess like a C minus D based on performance. I think the deck lacked a couple things. I think it lacked cheap removal. I think that Flyers was definitely the bane of our existence. So I don't think that the deck is necessarily a bad one. The matches where we didn't have to contend with Flyers, they were close. We managed to win one and we lost one. The opponent we beat did have trouble on mana as well, but they're playing Karn's Bastion in a 3-color deck, which seems a little weird to me. But it is what it is. Not our best deck by a long shot. Not our worst deck, though. But I think it's important when the draft is done, you want to take the time to reflect on what could have been better about the deck and not just bemoan, oh, my opponent had all the answers, or 2 of our matches we had Flyers and we couldn't deal with them. Was that a problem with the way we built the deck? Possibly. Again, going into a format for the first time, you don't know, right? Like, you don't know how good Flyers is going to be. Obviously, Blue-White Flyers, fairly solid archetype. We saw a lot of white flying creatures. We also saw the Phoenix, which did us in with the one deck. So Flyers was definitely a problem for this deck. I think kind of the thing to take from that, though, and kind of grow it is the big things. We just didn't have enough removal. Flat out. We had Warbriar's Blessing. God, I won't have to say that card again. Thank God, that name. Not much else in the... an Eldest Reborn, which is an Edict effect, which isn't that good, and a board wipe. So we had 3 pieces of removal, not nearly enough for a deck like this. I think we were also a little light on value card draw. We had Foreboding Fruit and Supreme Will to help us out a little bit with selection, but it's overall kind of meh. The deck is kind of meh. We didn't quite get enough top end to really be threatening. We didn't get enough flexibility. Like, Euro could have been good, but we just didn't get enough ways to put things into our yard aggressively enough to escape it. The Woe Strider with it seemed like whenever we had Euro, we also had the Woe Strider, so I definitely think we were a bit of victim circumstance as well in some of the games. But I think that the deck needed just a little bit more to get over the hump, especially in the way of removal and possibly a little bit more card draw to play a longer game profitably. Like, I would happily traded Ashiok for a removal spell. I don't think Command the Dreadhoard's good enough in a deck like this. You're just a little too slow. Migration Path's a little greedy. I don't think you want to go too many colors in this format, so it seems to me. But again, this is all just kind of at first blush. So I know this format's around for a little while still, so you get a chance to play it. So definitely learn from my mistakes. Removal good, Flyers good. Be ready for Flyers if you're going to play something else. Be prepared to not get your butt kicked by Flyers. Be careful. I think the enchantment removal ended up being pretty good. We got to use it most of the time we had it in our hand for some form of value. So I think all that's pretty good. Early interaction, definitely good. Cheap interaction, definitely good in this format. So that's my kind of takeaway, is be able to interact with your opponent and have a game plan for what they're doing with the interaction, and also have a way to win. So that's important, right? Win the game. Good idea. So if you're not familiar with us, we do this every Thursday, and I just want to thank you for sticking with me. If you've listened to my spiel here at the end, appreciate it very much. Push and subscribe if you would be so kind. And if you like this, we do Arena every single Sunday over on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/superliminalfilms. You can find us there. Every Sunday we are playing some Arena. Zendikar Rising coming up soon. Hopefully, there's no word yet, but hopefully we get into that early access event. We've gotten into every early access event since, God, a million years ago. Somewhere in before War of the Spark, I do believe. I think somewhere in there. But anyway, thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, you know what I'm going to say. Kiss more spells.